Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV, and I'm the editor here at MetaStellar. And I'd like to talk to you about the #1 best-selling free science fiction book on Amazon today, a book which gave me strong Stargate vibes. But before we get to it, we have 9 other books to get through on today's top 10 list. You see, every Friday, the team here at MetaStellar reads the first few chapters of every sci-fi and fantasy book on Amazon's top 10 free list. So today I was joined by Carla Nordlund and Alex KOROLOV, and Cindy Levinson helped with the research and all the links and the graphics and stuff. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hope you guys can join me on video one of these coming weeks. Today's list also includes aliens, witches, elves, fated mates, dragons, a post-apocalyptic world, and just in time for the Halloween season, a haunted house. So it's got everything for everybody. It's your perfect free weekend read, so don't change the channel. Okay, so for those who are new, MetaStellar is an online magazine of speculative fiction. All the content is always free to our readers. We publish hundreds of short stories, reprints, excerpts, essays, and lots of book reviews. We're able to do this and keep our content completely free thanks to our Patreon supporters, and the link to our Patreon page is in the description box below. And if you happen to write science fiction, fantasy, or horror, our fall submission period is now open. You have until midnight on October 31st to submit your short story. The link to the submission page is in the description box below. And also, the best stories get to go into our Best of the Year anthology, the first one of which is out in all the major bookstores, and the link to it is in the description box below as well. All right, all the business aside, let's get to the books. The first book on today's list, which is the 10th best-selling fantasy and science fiction book on Amazon today, is a haunted house book, Belle, Manor Haunting by Cheryl Bradshaw. The 4th of 5 books in the Addison Lockhart Urban Fantasy series, or Ghost series. The other books are $5 each. The 5th book is coming out later this month and is available for pre-order, but this series is not in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited, for those who don't know, is you pay $10 a month and you read all the books you want. A lot of great books are in Kindle Unlimited. Last time I checked, the majority of the bestsellers in science fiction and fantasy were on this list, including all the Harry Potter books. So it's a great list, both for independent authors and the big name publishers are on it. And it's like the Netflix of books. I highly recommend it. So since this is the 4th book in this series, I didn't want to give away any spoilers. So I went back to the first book, which is Grayson Manor Haunting, which cost $5, and since I'm cheap, and we review a lot of books, and we can't afford to buy all the books we review, unless maybe you guys donate some more money, but anyway. So I read the look inside chapters instead. And the cover is creepy, like this cover here. It's a haunted house kind of cover. It's very spooky. And of course, there's the word haunting right in the title, dead giveaway. And I'm a little scared of books that are scary, you know, for obvious reasons. And I'm not the target reader for them because they give me nightmares, and I don't like that. So, but, you know, for you guys, I started reading it, and it starts out with Addison Lockhart watching her cab drive away, and it's leaving her in front of this abandoned old house that badly needs a lot of work. And we see in a flashback that she was left her house in her mother's will. She didn't even know her mother owned it. And it's a manor in Rhinebeck, New York, and that previously belonged to her grandmother. And the house isn't even habitable enough to stay in. I mean, she had the electricity turned on, but the lights still don't work. There's no water. It takes a couple of weeks for things to get fixed. There's a cute handy guy who runs everything, and she stays somewhere else while it's getting fixed up, and there's months and months of work ahead. So the book starts very, very slowly with the backstory and all the repairs and the guest house where she's actually staying, which is the guy who's managing the repairs. It's his relatives who run it, and he's there for dinner all the time, and so she. So there's a lot of that kind of slow buildup happening, which very readable, enjoyable to read, but it kept giving me the creeps because I knew something scary was coming. So I'm not going to stick with a book, but if you're looking for a scary read for the spooky season, check it out. And if you don't mind jumping into the middle of the season, the 4th book is free. Okay, moving on to book number 9 on today's list is House of Bastiion by K.L. Kolarich. The first of 3 books in the Herron Legacy epic fantasy series. The second book is $3 each, and the 3rd book is coming out next summer, but is available for pre-order, and the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. So it seems to be a traditional fantasy epic book. Alora's sister vanished 10 years ago. Alora holds herself responsible because as a seer, she should have seen the tragedy coming. She is one of the most respected women in the kingdom, and she's almost finished training her niece as her successor. And her niece is about to travel to, I'm guessing, the capital of the country. And she sends an assistant, a very creepy assistant, to watch over her niece as she travels across the kingdom. And it's a multi-days trip, and it's dangerous. And the niece's name is Lucia. And then we switch to Lucia's point of view. She's been on the road for 4 days, still has many days left to travel. There's a whole lot of backstory about politics and geography and all the various interactions between different political groups and so on and so forth. And I skipped all of that. It's a kind of a heavy epic fantasy kind of book. If it's important, I can go back and catch up later. But there's danger. She and her guards and her pet wolf are taking back roads and keeping the fires low at night. And during the night, when they're camped inside the walls of an ancient ruin, she wakes up. Someone's moving around outside the tent. She creeps out, accompanied by her wolf. At first, she doesn't see anything, but then she notices a gash in the side of her tent, exactly where her head had been. And so they pack up and split. And then we switch the points of view again to Zathan, a warrior who has a personal militia, who also serves the crown, and he's getting ready for someone's arrival, probably Lucia's. And dead bodies are showing up in the city. This time it's a mixed caste girl who's just 11 years old, who's been brutally murdered. So there's stuff happening, there's tension building on both sides. The book is a slow read. It's written in a very heavy, epic fantasy style. And you have to be in the right mood to join the book. And I do like books of this type, and I have liked books like this before, and I will again. And I might well come back to this book when I'm in a mood to get into it. But right now, it's a little too heavy for me. Other than that, it's extremely well written. The setting is lush and vivid. It feels real. The problems of the people living there feel real and complex. It's a meaty story that I think is well worth sinking your teeth into. And it's free, and the whole series is in Kindle Unlimited. So excellent. Next, we have Forbidden Queen by R.J. Vickers, and Carla Nordland read this one for us. This is the first of 6 books in the Forbidden Queen young adult fantasy series. The other books are $1 each, and the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. So, Kalia has lived in exile for 18 years, hidden away in a sleepy mountain town by her mother, the queen. She's a witch, and there's prejudice against witches, but she's kind and wants to be a good leader when her time comes. She rescues a young boy from drowning, and the townspeople immediately turn on her, accusing her of witchcraft, and threaten to burn the whole family out if they don't leave within a day. So Kalia and her mother and her lady-in-waiting depart the next day. And Kalia is something called an extractor, which is one of the forbidden magic users. And anyone too close to her first feels sleepy, then lethargic, then comatose as their organs shut down. And realizing that her influence is growing too strong and affecting her traveling companions, she sprints miles ahead, burning the energy she stole from them. Okay, so Carla says that she's enjoying this book and she will definitely keep reading. But she appreciates that the first couple chapters have some perfect examples of showing, not telling. The town's fear, hatred, and prejudice is shown in the scenes where Kalia rescues the young boy and what happens when her magic affects her traveling companions. But there's also a lot of exposition. So she's also intrigued by the magic system, and she can't wait to see how Kalia responds to the political and social pressures when she attempts to take her throne, given that she has these forbidden abilities. So Carla says that she believes in fiction helping us to view, process, and solve real-world problems. And these themes of misunderstanding, hate, and prejudice speak strongly to her. And she thinks it's a good pick for a fantasy lover looking for an entertaining and topical read. And it does sound good. Next is a book that I started reading over lunch. And I finished reading over lunch. I could not put this book down. I wound up having 3 lunches. But that's a whole different topic. Okay, so it's a cozy magical mystery book. And it has all the cozy mystery magic cliches. So the protagonist starts out in a dead-end job in a big city with no friends, no money. Her ex racked up a whole bunch of debt in her name. The landlord has just told her that he's evicting her. She's got no car. I mean, her life is like a total, complete disaster. And then out of nowhere, this magical person shows up at her apartment door, lets herself in uninvited, lets herself back in when Zora kicks her out, and it's just a lot of fun. So the story is that her aunt has died, and left her bakery in a small magical town. And Zora has to travel across the country to get there. She spends the last of her money on a rental car and just jumps in and packs all her stuff and goes. Because why not? I mean, it's not like she's got anything else to do. And she doesn't know that she's going to get a bakery and a house and everything until she gets there. And not only does she get a magical bakery, but she discovers she's got magical baking skills and more. She's like a super powerful witch. And she gets a talking cat familiar and an instant family that she didn't know she had because her mother abandoned her when she was a child and the father who raised her is now dead. And it's just super cozy. Oh, and there's a hot bad guy who might be good. And there's a mystery to solve. Who killed her aunt, the ghost? It's just a lot of fun. It has everything I want in a cozy magical mystery. And the whole series is in Kindle Unlimited. It's the first of 7 books. And so yeah, I love this book. I loved everything about it. It's the literary equivalent of a cupcake. Nothing unexpected, perfect balance of sweetness and nuts. I really enjoyed it. I read this book, and I'm probably going to read most of the rest of them this weekend. It's just a perfectly wonderful read. Okay, on to something completely different. The Caged Dragon by Dan Michaelson is the first of 6 books in the Cycle of Dragons coming-of-age fantasy series. The other books are $4 each, and the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. And Dan Michaelson has been on this list before. We reviewed his book, Alchemist Apprentice, back in August. So it starts in a rural fantasy setting. Reminds me a little bit of The Princess Bride beginning with the kind of the farm boy kind of thing. So Arshan is setting a fence post when he sees a thin trail of smoke drifting up from the horizon. He and his friend are working out there on the farm, and they can see storm clouds gathering and there's thunder in the distance. They want to get the rest of the fence done before the storm hits, but that smoke worries them. So they get horses and go through the forest down King's Road towards where they saw the smoke. And they find the source of the smoke, and it's a streak of burned land 20 paces across, coated in dark ash. Ashton thinks it was a lightning strike, but his friend thinks it was a dragon, because in this world, there are dragons. And the king has dragons and dragon riders protecting the kingdom. So then they find a piece of odd metal, and Ashan thinks he saw something hiding in the woods. And he sees a shape in the clouds above. Maybe it's a dragon circling overhead. Maybe the dragon attacked something on the ground. What was it that the dragon attacked? But the storm is heading close, and so they head back before tracking the problem down to its source. I like this beginning. I like the setting. There's just enough information to let you know where you are and set the mood and scene and who the big enemy is. They're called the Vard. But not so much exposition that's confusing or getting in the way. I love the fact that the whole series is in Kindle Unlimited, and I might very well stick with it. This is definitely my kind of book. Then we have Trencher's Bunker by Shane Noble, a standalone book of post-apocalyptic science fiction. And Alex KOROLOV read this book for us. And he says that it's a book about humans surviving in a world-ending catastrophe. And he read the first 4 chapters, and he says he is hooked. So Marcus Trencher is a billionaire who knows that an asteroid is about to smash into the world, and humanity will be forced to move underground to survive. Luckily, he's already built a giant underground bunker and selected a chosen few to live with him there after the disaster. And so Trencher's friend, Henry, also his employee, is sent around the world to find and recruit the most likely candidates to actually live, work, and survive in this bunker. And so I personally find that a little creepy and off-putting. But Alex says he loves how the story is building up. You know, a huge disaster is about to happen. The world is going to be a completely different place. He says he feels like he has to keep reading the book just to see what happens to the planet and what kind of new underground society is formed by what's left of humanity. He says the main characters are interesting, and the concept seems that this is something that could happen to our planet. So there you go. Next, we have Wolf Moon by Finley Quinn, the first of 3 books in the King Rose Renegades Pack paranormal romance series. They're the books between $1 and $5 each, and they're all in Kindle Unlimited. So this is a reverse harem rejected mates shifter romance. So reverse harem means that the girl gets all the guys. Rejected mates means that somebody is somebody's fated mate, and the other fated mate doesn't want anything to do with them. In this case, she's the one who rejects the guy, which is an unusual twist on it. Usually it's the guy who rejects the woman. She has to win him back somehow. But here, she's the one who's rejecting him because she just doesn't feel it. So these are super popular tropes. None of them are my popular tropes. I dislike all of them. I'm a cranky curmudgeon. All this touchy-feely romantic stuff makes me itch. I do like her abs. I don't know if you can see them there, but she's in excellent shape. Turns out she's a dancer, so that's why. I was really hoping she was a ninja and killed people, but no. So she leaves an apartment in New York City after some trouble with her former pack. The sense that I got is that there's some backstory there, maybe another series, but I looked up the author on Amazon and I didn't see another werewolf series on there. So I really don't know what it's referring to. Maybe it's under another author's name. She does have some co-author books, but I can find it. If you can, leave a comment in the description, comments below, or an article. So she moves back in with her grandmother in her hometown. There is a hot guy there helping her grandmother out, and the hot guy is in the local pack. He introduces her to the local pack leader. Everyone in the pack, men and women, are all super hot and super sexy, and she seems to be attracted to all of them. And the leader of the pack, the alpha wolf, it instantly tells her that she is his chosen mate, and she's got 2 weeks to accept it, and she doesn't have a choice about it. And she does not feel that pull. So since it's a reverse harem, you know that she's going to wind up with everybody. And if you like that kind of story, the book is free, and all of them are in Kindle Unlimited. So you will have some fun reading ahead of you this weekend. But not me. The book is compulsively readable, and I had trouble putting it down. But I would be embarrassed to admit if I went back to it and finished it. Okay, next we have The Reviled by Cynthia Morgan. The first of 3 books in the Dark Fae Fantasy series. The other books are $3 each, but they are not in Kindle Unlimited. So the book has a couple of different introductions. In the first one, the author talks about the inspiration for the story. There's a rebel military group in Uganda that kidnaps young children, forces them to commit horrifying acts of violence against each other and against their families. And this idea here is transplanted into the world of the Fae. So here, the Dark Fae kidnap Light Fae children, subject them to intentional neglect and cruelty in order to twist them away from the light. And then we get a preface. Ayla has grown up with these tales of the Dark Fae, also known as the Reviled. And she's got healing powers and other extraordinary abilities, and she's been studying at the temple, learning secret arts and how to battle evil. And in chapter 1, she is in, I guess, her hometown. She's guarding some children when she sees something in the forest that surrounds the village. And she thinks it's a dark elf, although it's the middle of the day, so that would be very unlikely because they can't go out during the daytime. Then that night, her best friend introduces her to a handsome male elf with magnificent white wings, who's also a fellow scholar. They spend the evening together platonically, and he walks her home and kisses her goodnight, and she's overjoyed. And the next day, she senses the evil watcher again, or maybe it's just an animal or something else innocuous. She's second-guessing herself because she often lets her imagination get away with her. And she doesn't want to tell anyone and cause a panic. She's worried she's going to get sent back to the temple permanently because she can't, be trusted in ordinary life. It is a very, very slow beginning. The prose is lyrical and beautiful, but there's a little distance from the characters. You're not really in the characters' heads. And I didn't really get caught up in the story, so I don't think I'm going to be sticking with the book. But it is a beautiful book, and it's free. Next, we have Underland Books by Mary Twomey, a box set of the first 3 books of the 9-book Undraland paranormal romance series. The other books are $4 to $5 each, but they are not in Kindle Unlimited. The author's been on this list before a couple of times. So Lucy's a college student in Ohio studying to be a doctor, and it's set in the present day. Her twin brothers recently died of leukemia, and both of her parents have been killed in a car accident. And she's in a weightlifting class when she gets this feeling that she's being watched, even though there's nobody there. And there's a bunch of gossip and who's got a crush on who and who's attractive, and there's some banter between her and her roommates. And then that night, she still has the feeling that she's being watched. She's got a part-time job as a cashier, and on the way home from work, she gets the sense that she's being followed. And she's right. A bear comes out of the trees and chases her down the sidewalk in Ohio. Yeah. Then a man shows up and wrestles the bear down, tells her to run home, which she does. Then the mysterious man shows up at her apartment door, and he's all scratched up and asks for antiseptic. He knows her name. He knows her roommate's name. So at first she thinks he's her roommate's football buddy. But then he tells her that the bear was a werebear, and she needs to pack a bag and leave right now with him. and she refuses, and he tells her the old secret family password, the ones her parents used when they sent a neighbor or a friend to pick her up from school. So it is a strong beginning. It's very easy reading. I'm getting caught up in it. Might stick with it, but this series is not in Kindle Unlimited, and it's not usually my kind of genre. But like I said, it's very, very readable. Finally, we have the Auriga Project by M.G. Herron, the #1 best-selling book on today's free science fiction and fantasy bookshelf on Amazon. It's the first of 3 books in the Translocator First Contact science fiction series. The other books are $4 each, and they are not in Kindle Unlimited. The author's been on this list before. We reviewed Starfighter Down, the first of 3 books in the Relics of the Ancients, a space opera series, this past August. So Eliana is an archaeologist living in Austin, Texas. This book is set in the near future. There's been an energy crisis. There's a lunar base, but a resupply mission to the base failed. The biodome ruptured, there were some explosions, and the lunar terraforming project has been set back by years. Eliana's husband is a big shot inventor who works for a super big company, and he's about to unveil an invention that's been 10 years in the making that will change the face of space travel forever. And she's planning this big reveal party. So the media is all invited, politicians, investors, like all the big shots in the tech world are there. She's left her archaeology work behind to focus on this. And so the book starts really slowly with the party preparations and schmoozing with the politicians. And Eliana can't wait for all this to be over so she can go back to her archaeology. Then we get a glimpse of this new invention. It's a molecular teleporter that will let them ship materials and people straight to the moon. And for the big reveal, they're going to send a rover to the moon in front of a global audience. And Eliana is wearing a present from her husband, and it's a ring, and in a ring there's a black diamond that's been harvested from a meteorite. And she's the one who presses the kind of the ceremonial pressing of the button to start the thing going. And they've tested it lots of times, so they know it's going to work. But this time when she touches it, there's an electric shock and everything goes awry. And I'm guessing there was something really weird about this ring. And when it came into close contact with electronics, it made everything run amok. The teleporter goes haywire and sucks Eliana into its vortex. Fortunately, instead of sending her to the surface of the moon, she lands somewhere else, on an alien planet with a breathable atmosphere. Well, that was a stroke of unusually good luck. So this book reminds me a lot of the show Stargate SG-1. And it's appropriate that she's an archaeologist, since that show was heavily inspired by Egyptian history. This story is a really good read. I might stick with it and finish the book. I really recommend it. All right, so have you read any of these books? Do you plan to? Let us know in the comments below. And again, if you like this kind of content, please support our channel by hitting the like and the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our episodes. We put out an article every single Friday in our newsletter, which you can also subscribe to. And the link to the article is also in the description box below. I already mentioned you can support us on Patreon. I want to thank very much our Patreon supporters. We wouldn't be able to do it without you. Your support helps pay for original fiction on our site, and we appreciate it. We love you for it. Thank you so much. I'll see you all next Friday. Bye-bye.